Hey, it has been a minute. It's been a lot of minutes. It has been incredibly inconsistent on this channel, and there's really no other reason to explain it other than just been busy with life. Still trying to get used to living down in the South. It's been good. It's been good. Don't get me wrong on there, but when you're pushing nearly 40 years old and you're trying to start new, brand new house, brand new location, very little people, it just takes a little while to get going. So the content has not been where I would like it to be. Um, so this is a little bit of a different video in which I wouldn't necessarily call it a return, but I would maybe some sort of fun content. So anyone who's been following or seeing these casually know that I'm someone that just likes to post what they like, and that's just kind of what it's been. And I've wrestled with how I want to move the channel going forward. Do I want to focus on one thing? And honestly, I'm just the kind of person where I have a whole bunch of things on my mind, a lot of different critiques, a lot of different opinions and stuff like that, and I'm not really in a place right now where I want to separate to other channels and do all that. I think what's important is that I'm just being honest with myself and putting all that on here. So, that being said, yes, I am wearing glasses. These are not official glasses, these are reading glasses. And the reason why I have reading glasses is because I thought to myself, I'm spending an awful lot of time um, playing games. And I thought to myself, maybe I can have some quiet time and do some reading. And I came across a lot of booktube content creators, and a lot of them were talking about Stephen King. And I know very little about Stephen King. In fact, I think the only thing I really know of Stephen King are like the movies he put out in like the 90s and late 80s and the miniseries. I've heard of his books. I've never officially read them. I think the first book I ever read, I was back in high school, so I think this might have been 2004. And I read Dreamcatcher, and that is a weird book. One that I do not plan to go back to anytime soon. And the movie was. uh, yeah, maybe somewhere far down the line I can revisit that and see if it holds up or not. But this is more me wanting to get more into his multiverse, which I learned that a lot of his books are connected in various different ways, whether they be through certain items or characters, settings, but apparently it all goes towards his masterpiece collection known as the Dark Tower books, which are a compilation of 7 books, and they all are connected into the much larger universe of his stories. So I decided, you know what? I'm I'm curious. Let me see for myself. So I decided, kind of like what Marvel does with its movies, I created my different phases. And I do apologize. I don't have the list sitting in front of me. It might be way off to the side. Uh, I created my own little phases for the books I'm going to read, and then it will lead into a book of the Dark Tower series. So I kind of wanted to share a little what that's going to look like, and next video we'll talk a little bit more about the next book. I don't know how I like this are going to be phased out in between other content videos, so this is just going to be a hodgepodge channel of different things. But the one thing I noticed when I was reading the first book in here was that I was getting a lot of really bad headaches, and they weren't going away. And then I started realizing that I'm having a very hard time focusing on the pages. And my wife humored me and was telling me, hey, maybe you should look into reading glasses and see if that helps. So I went to Walmart. I found like a cheap pair for $5 or $6. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can actually like read these a little more clear. It doesn't feel like I'm having a hyper focus on the page, and it's been extremely helpful. So if that's how reading glasses technically work, cool. If it's more like I needed to hold up a magnifying glass in order to read, I don't know. But so not much to say on that. Uh, been reading. I want to say as of right now, I've probably about 800 pages in. I've officially started, I think, like a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. So I wanted to kind of go through the order in which I'm going to read up until the first Dark Tower book, and I did throw in a book in there that really has no tie to it, but I was curious about it. So the first book in that series is actually, I think, is one of the earliest works he did, and I know I don't know. Before anyone asks, Carrie is not in this current phase that I'm reading. There's really no tie to that story to the first Dark Tower book. This is more like books that have some importance to the immediate Dark Tower series that are going to subsequent follow. So this is kind of in chronological publication order, if you will. So bear with me. So the first one is Salem's Lot, and yes, these are not anything. These are not extravagant books. These are not special editions. These are ones that I found online for fairly cheap. And if you want to go and look and see how much the hardcovers are of some of these, be my guest, because some of them can really get up there in price. So we've got that book. That is book number 1. Book number 2, which I'm currently working on right now, is The Stand. The third book in this series, I don't know if I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do this. The third or fourth book could potentially change places depending on how I feel, but the next two are The Dead Zone and The Shining. And the reason why I said these can change is because technically The Dead Zone is not a Dark Tower adjacent book, but it's one that I've heard about. I'm familiar with the TV show, I believe with Anthony Michael Hall, that came out decades ago. I'm curious. I don't even know if that show has anything to do with this, although it reminded me of this, and I thought, hey, why not? Guy ends up in an accident, wakes up from a coma years later, and has special psychic powers. I'm all for it. And then The Shining, we all know about The Shining, and it wasn't until like 20 years ago that I found out that the Stanley Kubrick version of The Shining is not the version of The Shining that we get from the book. There are differences, and Stephen King would go on and rectify that with a miniseries. I think it was in like the mid 2000s, which are not that well known. And then, of course, the last book of the series, well, the last book of this first phase is going to be the first book of the Dark Tower, which is The Gunslinger. During this, I'm going to go through the phase as a whole, and then once I'm done, I might venture off and read other material just so when I go back to Stephen King, it feels fresh and exciting. I don't want to burn myself out so quick. I ran into that problem when I was doing my Final Fantasy challenge, which I was posting on my socials, and what ended up happening was by the time I got to the end of Final Fantasy IV, I was already burnt out. And I'm like, I really don't want to just schedule the next few games. It's like a month per game. It's gonna, like, I have backlogs. I want to get to those first. There will be times to get to those, maybe just not right now. So after this is done, I was thinking about either rereading at least the first book in C.S. Lewis's sci-fi trilogy. I believe it's called Escape from the Silent Planet. I read it years ago, but I really didn't give it its fair shot. It was right as we were moving, and I don't think I was really able to absorb it and take it all in as much as it is. If not, I have other things too. I have also I have also read the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. That'll be one I will revisit in time. As far as Phase 2 and what those books look like, I don't 100% recall all of them, but I definitely know that it is in there. And I think potentially Misery. And that's mainly just because of how much of a fan I was of the movie, and I'm curious to see how the book does with that. There are a lot of his books I'm curious to check out. I'm curious to get into his works and check them out for myself. A lot of people regard Stephen King for his world building and how he writes, and I can definitely understand. I'm already a book and 15 to 20-ish% into book number 2, and I will be doing standalone videos to talk about my opinions of said books, the pros, the cons, and going forward, and how it is. So, just wanted to give an update on that, and just try to get back into putting out content, however that may look. Like, for now, it could be book related. The next one could be, I don't know, could be talking about something completely different, but that's just me. I'm the kind of person where one minute I want to talk about books, the next minute I might want to talk about card games, the next minute I might want to talk about cooking. That's just me. And I'm not going to divide that amongst several channels when I am in no position or have any standing to do anything like that. So, I'm back, question mark? But the next video will be coming out fairly soon after this, if not immediately after this, where I'm going to give my opinions on the first book in this journey, and that is Salem's Lot, which I do have some things I'd like to say. So I want to thank the people who do watch and have watched and stuck with me as I try yet again to gain traction in doing more content, because I like doing content. I like putting videos out there, and as part of growing and ever evolving as a person, I want to get back into doing the things that I love. And I do love doing this. And I'm eager to see where this branch goes. I'm also eager to see if I can get better at making videos. We'll see on that one. I'm still a busy guy with a busy schedule, so we'll do the best that I can. So thank you, and I will see you at the next one.